States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do a roll call tonight since we have a Zoom member. Mr. Raymer.
Present.
Mr. Booker.
Here.
Mr. Brubaker.
Here.
Mr. Espacet.
Here.
Mr. Shaw.
Present.
Mr. Hensley, remote.
Here.
And I'm here. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Dennis Otten from Bose, McKinney, and Evans. He'll be doing a short presentation on our proposed lease agreement.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. Can you get your mic real quick? Sorry. Good evening, members of the board and members of the public. Just for the record, my name is Dennis Otten. I'm with Bose, McKinney & Evans. Our law firm is serving as bond counsel to the school corporation on this project. And this is a public hearing tonight on the proposed lease agreement with the Manchester Community School Building Corporation, which is part of the financing process for the approval of the issuance of bonds, which right now we're moving along the timetable as we contemplated starting last year, and on a path to be in a position to sell these bonds in early March. There have been multiple public hearings already on this project, occurring in December and November, as well as public outreach meetings of the board, which occurred in November as well. This is the final public hearing on the lease agreement itself. And again, the financed improvements here are, and I'm going to say these very briefly, that there's been a lot of information provided about them, but are kind of the new hallway connector between the admin building and the high school building, new cafeteria, among other facilities, and some renovations and improvements to the elementary school building. The building corporation met last week. They've been incorporated and they adopted a resolution approving the lease. And so tonight, if any members of the public would like to comment on the lease agreement, now's an opportunity to do so. Or if anyone has any questions for board members, if you have any for me, please let me know.
Any public comment? Board comment? Can you hear us, Mike?
Yes.
Mr. Superintendent? Not for me. Okay. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the hearing.
So moved.
In a second. Mr. Raymer and Mr. Brubaker made a motion in a second to adjourn the hearing on the proposed lease agreement. With that, I'll call the regular meeting to order, Tuesday, January 11th at 6:03 p.m. Mr. Whelan.
Yeah, before we get tonight's meeting started, I would like to recognize a gentleman who was a big part of our school corporation, our athletic department for a long time. Over break, Charlie Kyman had passed away. Charlie was a very consistent person when it came to our athletic department. As we kept losing athletic directors, including myself, Charlie was one to step in, and he helped guide me along the way. He was working over 100 events per year on behalf of our student athletes. He truly was the voice of the Squires for nearly 20 years. And so, I can't say enough thanks to him over the years, but also his family for giving up time and allowing him to continue to support. So before we begin tonight's meeting, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Charlie Kyman. Thank you very much. And in true Charlie Kyman fashion, he did ask all memorials to be donated to the high school athletic department. So it just kind of seemed very fitting, and I appreciate all the support from him and his family, and keep them in our thoughts and prayers as we move forward. So, moving along, we do have some additions for tonight's meeting. We do need to adopt the resolution, the lease execution. I'd like to make that the item 8.4, adopt the resolution in the lease agreement, which we just had the hearing about. And then also for 8.5, I'd like to approve Hagerman as our CMC for our building project coming up. So those are the two additions for this board meeting.
Board, any other additions? Hearing of patrons on agenda items only.
Do we need to approve the additions on the agenda?
Yeah, thank you. I'd entertain a motion to approve the amendments to the agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Booker and
Second.
Mr. Raymer, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Conflict of interest statements, Mr. France?
Every year this time, we have the board members execute conflict of interest statements if you have yourself or a dependent that would financially gain from any contract with the school. So if you think you fall into that category, please let me know and I'll prepare a conflict of interest statement for you. If not, there's nothing to worry about. I'll remind you that if you do have one and you don't disclose it, it is a felony, so please err on the side of caution.
Okay, at this time we'll do our school board reorganization, election of officers. I'd entertain a motion for the president.
I'll make a motion, Dave, for you to retain the president.
Second?
Second.
Mr.
I said I'll
Brubaker?
make a motion for you to retain the president role.
We heard you, Mike, thank you. Mr. Brubaker seconded.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? This time I'll call the vote. Mr. Raymer?
Yes.
Mr. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Brubaker?
Yes.
Mr. Espacet?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Hensley?
Yes.
And I will abstain. Okay, at this time we have a motion for vice president.
I'll make a motion that stays the same. Mr. Hensley, please.
Do I have a second? Mr. Brubaker nominated Mr. Hensley.
I'll second.
Mr. Raymer seconded. Any other nominations for vice president? Mike, do you accept?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, signify, Mr. Raymer,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Brubaker,
Yes.
Mr. Espacet,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Nomination. Sorry, Mike. I almost jumped ahead of you. Nominations for secretary.
I nominate Raji Shaw.
Mr. Raymer has nominated Mr. Shaw. Do I have a second? Mr. Brubaker. Any other nominations for secretary? Okay. Mr. Hensley.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Shaw.
Abstain.
Mr. Espacet.
Yes.
Mr. Brubaker.
Yes.
Mr. Booker.
Yes.
Mr. Raymer.
Yes.
Okay. Consideration of appointments. Can I do these all at once, Mark? Or do we gotta do them separately?
Let's do it separately.
Okay. Recommendation is for the corporate treasurer to be Tanya Emmel. I entertain a motion.
No motion.
Mike and Mr. Brubaker seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Assistant treasurer recommendation is Darla Kane. Get a motion.
I'll make a motion for that.
Mr. Booker. Mr. Raymer, seconded. All in favor, signify, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
7-0. Corporate attorney, Mr. France, I have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Brubaker, second. Mr. Raymer, all in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Legislative liaison. Mike, are you interested in continuing in that position?
I am.
Anybody else?
Yes.
No, I'll make a motion that Mike.
Okay, we have a motion for Mike to continue, a second.
Second.
Mr. Shaw seconded. Any other nominations? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. I would be interested in continuing the Heartland Career Center. Mr. Brubaker,
Second.
Mr. Shaw, anybody else interested? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
7-0. Somebody's gonna have to help me here. I don't remember who the North Manchester
That's
Redevelopment
me.
Commission member is. Is that you?
It's me.
Do you want to continue?
I will serve again, yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and nominate you for that.
I'll second.
Mike seconded. All in favor, anybody else interested? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
You
Abstain.
abstaining?
Yep.
Okay, we got 6-0 and 1. Parks and Recreation, I believe that's you, isn't it, Raju? Or, well, I'm sorry, that's Rick. You want to do it again? Okay. Anybody else interested? Okay. I need a motion.
I'll motion for Rick.
And Mr. Raymer seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Establishment of a designated newspaper, the News Journal. Do we want to put a secondary newspaper in there?
We'll continue to use secondary papers, but I think that having one designated.
Can I get a motion to put the News Journal in there as our official paper? Mr. Brubaker,
I'll second.
somebody seconded.
I'll second.
Robbie seconded, okay. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board members' compensation. Kyle and I talked about, we recommend we leave it the same. Motion. Mr. Brubaker,
Leave it the same.
second.
Second.
Mr. Shaw, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mr. Wheelan.
Yes, I'm actually going to turn it over to Dr. Lippy at this point to recognize those doing our presentation for tonight.
Well, again, we appreciate having another one of the great things that we get to do is run into some awesome programs. And Shelley Lightford and Erica Vogel, if I could have you guys come up. Both of them are over just unbelievable departments. Shelley is essentially the business department, teacher of the year last year in the state of Indiana. And Erica Vogel, she doesn't need much of an introduction either. She runs the RISE program. These guys have brought some of their kids with them. I'm going to turn it over there and just kind of let them share a little bit. But we got these two great programs that came together, they partnered, and just blossomed into something unbelievable. And all of these guys have should be commended for. It's just a great job by all. So Squire Store, let's hear about the Squire Store. They're a little shy.
Okay, so we're gonna have each of the kids that were able to come tonight, share their name and, what grade they're in. Can you guys do that? Your name and what grade you are. Come on up.
My name's Peyton, and I'm in 10th grade.
Who's coming next?
My name's Reagan, and I'm in 8th grade.
What
Jacob,
grade are you in?
8th grade.
Sean, Jacob. Chrissy. Say your name and what grade.
My name is Chrissy, I'm in 12th grade. My name's Cody, I'm in 8th grade.
Sorry. So like John said, this is just a few of the students that were a part of this project this school year, but Shelly and I have been working together for several years, creating Sammy's and what all it's turned into now. So I'm gonna let Shelly talk a little bit, and then I'll jump back in about what it kind of exploded into this school year.
Okay, so several years ago, we started talking and we realized the things her students needed were the same things my students needed and were expected to do as far as competencies or standards or whatever you want to call those. So we decided to start working together, and her kids need a lot of business experience, and we have that capability to make that happen. So we said, what can we do? And I think we first started with they would make a few items and we would sell them in my room. And then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And this year, we decided, what if I took my kids over to her room so they can all work together? So, you don't always get to pick the people that you work with, so we're trying to teach that skill that you have to be tolerant of everybody. And so we had several groups. My eighth grade entrepreneur kids really led the charge on this. They had an assignment to come up with something that they had to make. My upper level kids, the business students actually they purchased and resold items. So every business student had a component in this. The marketing kids helped with the marketing. The business kids did all of the buy and resell. Erica's kids did all the homemade, and the entrepreneurship kids came up with some really, really good products. And they sold every last bit of it. So I'll let Erica talk about that, because her kids are the ones that actually managed the stores as we took them out to the different schools.
All right, so what started out as, hey, we're gonna see if we can give our elementary students some experience at shopping, because not every kid gets to go to a store and shop. We've done this a few years, either at MIS or at MIS and MES, providing a little bit of shopping experience. This year turned into, I don't know, a circus, a zoo, I don't know. It was amazing though. It took us 2.5 hours, Shelly and I, with the help of some high schoolers, getting everything moved from the high school over to MIS is where we started. We set everything up in a classroom there for kids to come and preview and purchase items. And through all of that, they had the ability to look at the website that was created and developed by students in the high school and junior high. It's run by the students. Like Shelly and I look at it and oversee it and make suggestions, but the kids completely run it. And that gave kids an opportunity to look at items before they came to shop. We sent home wish lists or shopping lists that they could fill out with their parents, and envelopes that were sent home that they could bring their money in if they wanted to. Let me tell you, putting that all together for almost 800 kids was quite a treat, right? You guys remember putting together all of those envelopes? Yeah, they were sick of envelopes, let me tell you. They said, no more, Mrs. Vogel, don't bring any more in. But what that turned into when we went to MIS, because this year we went to MIS first, was at MIS they come during lunch and recess time to shop, and they were so keyed up and ready to go, they were like biting at the bullet to come in. Okay, they didn't want to eat their lunch. They didn't want to get in line to get their lunch. They wanted to just come shop. Well, we had 2 days set up. The second day at MIS, we got canceled for school and went to an e-learning day. I had more phone calls, emails, text messages, people stopping me in town over that weekend saying, you're staying, right? You're gonna stay there? And I said, I'm sorry, I've already committed to MES on Monday, and Tuesday, my kids have to move all this stuff. Like, I went in on Friday and moved everything. Like, I can't do it. They're like, but our kids are bringing money. I said, okay, we'll figure it out, And it was almost finals time for the high school. So we worked it out with MIS to get back there on Wednesday, but we went to MES, and every half hour, we had a different class coming Monday and Tuesday. Every half hour, there was a group of students at MES coming. And between the two buildings, the 5 days we ended up being spread out amongst them, we had over $3,000 brought in from products created by students, bought and resold by students, marketed by students, and purchased by students. That's not considering all the things that were sold prior when it's all set up in Shelly's room and run during those periods. And all Shelly and I did was like supervise and like oversee, drive the bus for them. I mean, it's all completely student ran. So it was the best year that we've ever had for this. And we looked at each other and had a conversation after we got done counting money to turn in and said, holy Toledo's, what are we gonna do next? Because all of that goes right back into both classrooms to create this again. Like, nobody takes this and pockets it. It's all to expand the kids again and continue their growth in learning how to do all of that. But in my classroom, when we had this conversation, you know, after we came back from break and everything, and they heard how well they did with sales because it was all right before Christmas break, they said, okay, but you boxed a bunch of stuff up and put it back on the shelf, right, in our storage area, because they know that's where Mrs. Bobo keeps all the extra stuff. And I said, no, guys, there was nothing to box up and bring back. There was nothing left to box up and bring back. We sold out of everything that they had made, everything they had bought, and we could have sold more if we would have had it to produce at the time. So we were very proud of the students' efforts, but also the support that the community gave us, because we had items from 25 cents up to, what was our most expensive item, like $25? So kids could come in and do some shopping for themselves or for their families, to give gifts, and it was pretty exciting to watch the younger kids especially come through with their little shopping list and say, okay, I'm buying for mom, buying for dad, I'm buying for my sister, my brother, my aunt, my uncle, my cousins, to see all of that happen. So, Reagan, you want to share some about that?
So my group did jewelry, and it took like 5-6 weeks, and we were still making things as we were selling them because they were selling so quickly. And when they took them to MES and MIS, they all sold out. So the time that we put into it really helped because they're gone now. And my group thought of it because it's just something that we all wanted to buy, like to have the chance to buy. So we thought other people would like it, and obviously it worked. So, yeah.
I made candles
Yep, with your group, right?
with my group, with Peyton.
Yep, with another Peyton, right? Yep. Awesome. Anybody else want to talk? Okay. Thanks, guys.
And I'll just say, you know, I appreciate Mrs. Leifer and Mrs. Vogel with their leadership, but, you know, so often we need adults to get students started, but after that, just get out of the way. And it was incredible to go into the classroom and to see these students working together to create the items that they, you know, came up with and designed themselves. And so it was just really neat to see students collaborating from the start of the, you know, the initial concept, the creation, design, manufacturing, and then the sales. And I'll tell you, I was out at MIS during one of the sales blitzes during lunch, and it's like, who hasn't been to the store yet? And kids are jumping out of their seats, and it's like, my turn, and I just wanted to get out of the way. So, you know, I think Mrs. Vogel and Mrs. Leifer, but I mean, I credit the students tremendously because the amount of time and effort they put into it, and just the products they were putting out, and you know, the overall work they did, it was amazing. So it was great to see, and I do appreciate all of them being able to come tonight.
Do like a little area high five, have them come around. Go back.
Absolutely,
All right,
absolutely.
Just kind of lead right through here, and I'll kind of do an air high five. So.
Good job, guys.
I'd like to offer my congratulations to a job well done. And I do, you know, you asked the question, and I'm going to repeat the question. So what is next?
Well, currently in my classroom, they are working on garden labels, things to label in gardens, fridge magnets, hair scrunchies, because those sold out rather quickly. What were the other things that we're currently working on? Oh, lanyards and necklaces. I mean, the list goes on, but usually we have like a little bit of stockpile in the back. We're fresh out. So we gotta like hurry up production here. Move it a little faster this year.
And to be honest, when we start looking at this building project and the things we're going to be able to do with our store as well as our coffee shop, these are the things that we have in mind to create a better space for which to do this, because right now we're operating out of a couple classrooms, the media center over here, so
A couple of storage closets
Yep.
to store things, and you can pull them out, put them back, all that stuff, so, yeah.
excellent.
And it goes from a lot of donations. People donate stuff to us all the time. So honestly, a lot of this stuff was donated in, and people are like, hey, we have this left over, or so-and-so didn't use this in their project. Do you want it? Yeah, sure, we'll take it. We don't know what we're doing with it yet, but we'll take it, and we come up with something later. So it's pretty awesome.
So again, just one more plug for these two ladies, just unbelievable. The ideas, you know, I just try to clear hurdles and stay out of their way. They just do a great job. So, yeah, great things coming.
Thanks, Dr. Lippy. Thank you. Well,
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Okay, under recognition, the superintendent just threw me a curve here.
you can do it later.
That's all right, we'll do it now, because it is kind of special. Down at Heartland, we have the Precision Ag program, and last week, there was a picture, I think it's gonna be coming out in the paper. We graduated and licensed our first 6 drone pilots. They actually have FFA drone license, and Trayson Gerhardt is our Manchester drone pilot. So the next time we need somebody to fly a drone, we got an alumni, or soon to be an alumni. So That's our recognition, and with that, I'll turn it over to Tanya for our financial report.
There's your picture, sorry.
There's one of that's one of the test drones. That's not the big $50,000 sprayer drone, but that's the one that they learn on. And those are the 6 new pilots that we have right there.
Very good.
Thanks, Randy.
Good evening. Kind of a brief overview on our financials. All right, so education fund, we have ended the year with a cash balance of $1.3 million. That's up $526,000 from last year. So I'm pleased to see that. One of the areas that I did see we were overspent, as you'll note, about halfway down the page, was our benefits portion. I've noticed in quite a few of our grants, we tend not to charge those benefits to that category, but we're going to work at doing that because then we overspend our education fund. So we'll work at pushing a few more of those types of expenses that are acceptable into our grants. And then in our operations fund, we'd also increased our cash balance in there. We're up now to $369,000, which is nearly double for what we were a year ago in January. We did have a very large expense of $800,000 to repay the tax anticipation warrant that was taken out last year. Again, since that's all credited to the operations fund, that does have to come out of there. And then debt service, we're building our balance up there with $1.1 million. Our school nutrition fund is looking much healthier this year. We're at $187,000. And we've also just received word, Becky just told us this week, we are going to, the USDA has approved increasing our reimbursements, which will help because it's the costs of food and even procuring the correct quantities and the correct items is going up. Everybody at the grocery store understands that too, even finding the correct stuff. So, but the USDA is finally hearing that and going to allow us to have better reimbursements on that. So hopefully that will continue to help us build our cash balance back up. Our textbook rental fund is still negative. We're negative $43,000. They're getting ready to send out our second semester billing. We're waiting on classes to be set at the high school, which I think has now happened. And they should get those out, and then we should see that. And then we'll also have our transfer from debt service, and we also are expecting our reimbursement from the state in February for that. So we'll not chip away at that, but we should be whole again here in February. Then finally, I have our Geo Bonds. So the general obligation bond, this is the 2019 bond that was taken out. We have a balance of $351,000. And then the Geo Bond of 20, we have $143,000 for the cash balances in those. So I did put up our ESSER grants, just the budgets. I'm working on those financials a little more in depth this time. So I have those budgets just to kind of go over, just to give you a quick glance at what we had set the budgets at, pending any amendments to those. So ESSER 1, we do need to spend that out by September of this year. So we do need to be focused on that one, which we are trying to be very cognizant of what we're spending to make sure we spend that out. Then as of September of next year, we also have to spend ESSER 2 and then ESSER 3.
Any questions, board?
Yeah, hey Tanya, have you, I know we had talked about this, and Dave and I talked about it a little bit. Would you share what you're trying to do to try to try to eliminate the need for us to do the bridge loan, the tax
Tax
form?
anticipation loan. We're trying to build our cash balance so that we can have enough to carry. The reason we would need to take out tax anticipation warrants are when the county may be delayed. Several years ago, everybody had to in 20, when the state said property taxes aren't due until July. So we're scrambling to be able to make our debt payments, which are due in June at that point. Almost every school had to take them out. Unless you have enough cash balance to be able to pay all those utilities, make your debt payments, and also continue payroll during that time. Last year, I think we were a little close on that. As I've looked at this, that we did need that tax anticipation warrant to come in just before our taxes. I'm hoping, I've asked the county for our advance, we should get up to 95% of what they've collected is due to us in advance, and I'm asking them for that. I did ask this past November, and they were unsure of how to do it. Apparently nobody else in the county has done that before. So I'll be working with them this next couple of months when they won't be collecting. They're not due until May, so not a lot of people are paying it in January. I would imagine you'll find some people to start paying in February and March. So I will be asking them to send us what we've gotten of what they've collected of that, so that we can increase that and hopefully not have to take out tax anticipation warrants to bridge that gap anymore. But just if we keep building our cash balance, hopefully we'll have enough in the bank so that we won't require those.
Thank you. I just kind of wanted to share the purpose for why we're trying to do this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Anybody else got any questions? Okay, at this time I'd entertain a motion to approve the financial report.
I motion.
Mr. Booker. Mr. Brubaker, second. Any further question or discussion?
Keep up the good work. Thank you.
All in favor, signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Consent items. Board, the minutes are in your packet. We have the claims, regular claims, prepaid claims, and payroll claims are all in your packet. We have any grants, do we?
No, we do not.
Okay. Mr. Raymer, could I get you to read the donations, please?
You can pull it down partway. We're having problems with the microphones. His is picking up in here, so he's okay.
We had a $250 donation to the MJSHS Band program from an anonymous donor. A $250 donation to the MJSHS Choir program from an anonymous donor. $250 donation to the MJSHS Fine Arts program from an anonymous donor. $1,000 donation to the MJSHS Athletics program from an anonymous donor. A donation of $500 to the MJSHS FFA program from an anonymous donor. A $500 donation to the MJSHS FCA program from an anonymous donor. A $500 donation to the MJSHS 5th grade girls travel basketball program from McKee Mortuary. A donation of $200 to the MJSHS 5th grade travel basketball program from Miller Moving Company. A $200 donation to the MCS for Kindness Day from North Manchester Lions Club. Donation of $417.18 to MCS for Kindness Day from Burgess Information Technology. Donation of $150 to MJSHS 5th grade girls travel basketball program from Tri-Oaks Realty. Donation of $150 to the MJSHS 5th grade girls travel basketball program from Underwood Angus Farms.
So that's $4,367 in donations for 1 month. That's pretty remarkable from our community. And we have one facility rental for Tri-Kappa. They're gonna do a Nelson's Chicken Barbecue and Bake Sale, February the 13th. That permission slip was in your packets. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
Mr. Raymer, Mr. Brubaker, any further discussion or questions, comments? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
No opposed, motion carries 7-0. We have personnel, recommendations for approval. I'm gonna let Mr. Wheelan do that.
So we have several employment for certified classified staff. Ruben Gonzalez as an MES first shift custodian. Cole Sellers as a junior-senior high school 7 to 12 science teacher. ECA positions, Terry Pierce as a high school assistant baseball volunteer. Hannah Burnworth as the Icarian plunge sponsor. Ella Krakenbush as a volunteer winter guard coach. Joshua Shestrunk as the MES computer club sponsor. And you know, I appreciate all of their work. We picked up some really good people. Some of them already work for us, but you know, finding volunteers especially is difficult. So I appreciate all their efforts. And then for resignation, we do have Javier, who is a Spanish paraprofessional. I wish him the best of luck. He got another position where his kids go to school and where his wife works, so wish him the best. So that is our employment update.
I have a motion to approve 8.1 through 8.12. New personnel hires, Mr. Brubaker. Second, Mr. Raymer. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, 7-0. Let's see. At this time, we have 8.4, which is, oh wait a minute, hold on. 8.2, Mr. Wheelan, school calendar amendment.
So when I proposed the school calendar last month, I did tell you I'd be returning after I did some surveying of our parents and guardians in regards to parent-teacher conferences. There was some concern that our conferences were all in the evening, and we did have some parents who that did not work very well into their work schedule. And so I did do a survey, and about 30% of our parents had indicated that during what would be considered like our normal school day would better fit into their work schedule for parent-teacher conferences, which I think 30% is a pretty significant amount when we're talking about accommodating those parents. And so the proposal I'm making, I ask that you approve the fact that we're going to declare October the 12th as an e-learning day. So that will still count as a school day, but it'll allow our teachers to meet with parents during the actual school day. And then October the 13th, and these are typically the days we have parent-teacher conferences anyhow. October the 13th would still be the evening shift, because we still do have a good number of parents who the evening shift is the better option. So it still fall on the same days, but I'm recommending that we approve that first day as an e-learning day so that we can accommodate those parents. In addition to that, so that does free up a half of a teacher day because it's not only in the evening. And so when we look at the start of the school year, we start on, it previously was August the 8th, we would have a half-day teacher day, and August 9th would be a full-day teacher day. That additional half-day will allow us 2 full teacher day to start out the school year. This is something that I feel that most teachers were already doing anyhow. Most of them weren't just coming in for a morning and then we don't see them. So, I think it works out better. There's a lot of meetings that we need to have when we come back into the school year, district-wide and at the building level. One of the things I really want to make sure that we include during those days are meetings in regards to our benefits. I think it's a great time before school starts to be able to discuss those with teachers and staff. So the fact that we're going to be able to have 2 full days instead of just 1.5 days is nice. The other amendment that I'm asking for or recommending, we had always had a week off between the last school day and graduation, which also then spanned Memorial Day. And so when I proposed this last month, we had graduation scheduled for the 2nd, but the graduation committee came back to me and said that now that we do have e-learning days, so we don't have to worry about bumping the school year back and changing when graduation is, they said the 26th is actually a better option for graduation. They also said that parents in the past have expressed interest in having graduation open houses during Memorial Day weekend, and having an open house before the actual graduation ceremony is probably not the best, sequence of events. So I'm recommending that we move the graduation to the 26th compared to the 2nd, which will allow us to have that graduation on the day after the student's last day. So that is the recommendations I'm making for the amendments to our calendar.
Entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations to the school calendar as presented. Mr. Brubaker? Mr. Raymer? Any further discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
And motion carries 7-0. Mr. Whelan?
Yeah, so 8.3, and I'm actually going to turn this over to Mr. Self. I'm recommending that we explore other vendor options for our website provider. And as some of you know, our website has been down. We were actually a victim of ransomware. We made CNN News, us along with 4,999 other school districts that were using our current provider. And so we are back up and running. But prior to that even starting, we had looked at exploring other vendors. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Self to talk about that process.
Yeah, thank you. Our current website, our contract expires middle of March. And in order to get another website up and running, we need to get that going here very quickly because it's not just a real quick thing to create a new website. We've got a good website. The vendor we have is Final Sites, like Kyle said. They did have a ransomware, and so it's been down for a while. It's back up. But we were having some concerns just for a couple reasons. Number one, we had a lot of people who weren't happy with the site. It's big, it's clunky, it's hard to find things. And part of that has to do with it is difficult to manage. We have lots of parts of our website that we're paying for, different things that we're not using. It is the editor on it. There are just a few of us who know how to do the editing. It's not something that you turn over to just anybody because there's a very steep learning curve on doing that design. So what we're looking at is we wanted something that was easy to manage, something that we could have other people put the content on easily without having to have a lot of design experience on that. Simplify the site, trying to so that you're not so many clicks deep to get what you want. Now, at the same time, everybody also thinks that the item that has come to their mind that is most important should be on the front page of the website. That's not possible. You do have to go through some clicks, but we want to streamline that. Besides all that, our current website is rather expensive. We're paying about $7,500 a year. First year costs on that were $10,000. Typically with the website, you have a first year cost that includes the initial build, and then you've got the continuing on that. So we put together a committee. looked at various website vendors. We checked with a lot of the area schools. We checked down at HEC, and Tony Miller's on the HEC listserv, and he put out to all the technology coordinators, hey, what were they using? We vetted a few of those. We had some meetings with some of those. We've come down to a couple vendors. Actually, there's one that we really like, and I think that's probably the one we are going to go with. And it is a more modular system. It uses we use Google for everything. So instead of, for example, the directory, I have to build the directory of all of our staff. The new website, since it's built into Google, would allow us to, whenever we onboard a new staff member, as soon as we set up their email, it sets them up in our directory on the website. So it integrates with our other systems, and that's what we're looking for kind of across the board as we're putting in systems. How do these integrate together? We've been using Parent Square for our parent communications. We've talked about being able to embed Parent Square into our website so that we don't need to put a whole bunch of stuff in the website, we can just do that. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Once again, we still want a website that looks really nice. We do want to use it for our marketing, but right now our current website, a lot of it is marketing, and a lot of people don't go to it. I mean, you don't have a lot of people searching around, oh, where do I want to send my kid to school? And they look at the websites. A few do that, and so we do want a nice website, but most are our own people. They're looking for, when's the basketball game, what's for lunch, and how do I get a hold of somebody? They want specific information, and so that's what we're looking at. So the system we're looking at would be modular. Price, definitely much better. We're looking at a first year setup, and so it'd be the setup and the first year fees of somewhere around $4,000. Ongoing beyond that is somewhere around $3,000. So that's a significant decrease, and that is a one-year contract. So if we go to this first year, get to the end of the year and we don't like it, and decide to go a different direction, we are out about, a little over $1,000 in that initial setup fee that we would be out if we decided we didn't like it. Now, we think we're gonna like it, but it's not a huge commitment up front. So those are kind of the things we're looking at. And once again, we just want a website that's easy to find things, easy to manage, and that we can have other people that can put things on the website so it doesn't all need to come to me. Missy will be able to put things in folders for like the board meetings. She can put it in the folder, it will automatically pop up on the website because it's all going to be integrated. Any questions on that? That cover what we needed?
Yeah, thank you. And that was one of the big things is just that user-friendly piece, not only for the people going to our site to find things, but also the people providing the content. I mean, right now, most of it had to go through Randy. I mean, even, I'd sit there and watch him walk through the steps it took to add something, and it was pretty complicated with the new sites we were looking at. It's something that I could easily do after seeing the new tutorial. So I recommend that we look to go with another vendor because the other one for multiple reasons. So
I have a question, if you could clarify on the packets for the board. Is this gonna make it simpler to get these contracts, policies, all this stuff posted on the site?
Yes.
Is it gonna be easier for the public to find them?
Yes, yeah, we will be able to set up, the site and then go, and a lot of what we already have will fit into this. It's just the organization of the site, because I rebuilt the board policies, and that's actually on a separate website that we aim at. So what we'll do is we'll do the same thing with that. They'll go to the school board button, and then there'll be a school board page, and we'll have all the policies and things will be there.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, are you able to share one one place that currently uses this website?
I put it in your, I sent it out in the email.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I just want to make a caution, and I'll talk about HB 1134 later, but like the doc control on the website, make sure we size that appropriately for anything that's coming at us in the future as far as the, I know we had a discussion on Word docs, but I think we'll have some further functionality or more transparency or visibility or, to the public in the future, so.
Yep.
Yeah, and the one advantage of the one site we were looking at is that it is tied to Google. So all of our documents we will store in our Google. There will be a Google folder, and so now it's not us. That's at Google, so we don't need to worry about the backup and all that stuff. That's their problem. But we have pretty much unlimited storage on that, so that's not going to be an issue. But you're right. Yeah, we do have a lot of material that's going to get put on that site.
Does it come with adequate security, or is this something Tony's going to have to mess with?
No, this is they will handle all that security. We don't. I mean, we're just. The nice thing about it is that we will be able to give different people different logon permissions. For example, when I talked about that directory, each staff member gets it'll pop up like a little business card. Well, if you're that staff member and you're logged in, you get to go in and edit yours to add things to it. And that's something I don't need to mess with giving them all these permissions. It's a single user sign on with Google, and if they're signed on, they can make changes to that. So that uses the Google security, which is what we're using. So that was something that steered us that direction as well.
So you do have a company pick that you want to use?
We've gone to two of them, and I think we've kind of picked a final one that we really like. So.
And that recommended it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, the committee, we worked through that and really, had the advantages and disadvantages of both of them, or of a whole bunch of them. But this is one that kind of, the ease of use and the ease of being able to update information. And that's really what we want to be able to do. We might give up just a little bit in the style and beauty of it. Not a lot, but the functionality, keeping it up to date is the most important thing. Because we've got a few graphic designers around, but not a lot. And so it needs to be something that's pretty easy to do.
And Robert, to speak to your question, there's several in the state of Indiana that have it, and we reached out to them as kind of reference checks. So, I do have some other sites as well, but it seemed overall, the people who are with them are planning on staying with them, and they did verify that it is much easier to put content on there than what we're currently dealing with, and also what some of the other companies have.
Yeah. And some of the other companies were using, the other one that we really liked was using an old open source editor, which has advantages and disadvantages. The biggest ones there, you look at security then too, with that one. But this, using so much Google, really does help us.
Any other questions, board? Can I get a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for a new website vendor? Mr. Raymer?
I'll second.
Mr. Buchner? Any further discussion? I would just like to add, I appreciate you guys getting out ahead of this and not waiting until the middle of March, and I really like the idea that it's a one-year trial and the fact that it's half the cost, so good job there. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Rick, did you have your hand up?
Yes.
Nope. Mike?
Yes.
Okay, 7-0 passes. Okay, now we're at 8.4, adopt the resolution that was submitted to us by the building corporation to move forward on the bond. This was all in your packet. Do you you wanna see it again, we can have Randy put it up on the board, or you just wanna move ahead with approving it?
We don't have it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Move ahead.
Okay, Mr. Brubaker just made a motion to move ahead and approve the,
Second.
adopt the resolution. Do I have a
Second.
Mr. Raymer, questions, discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call on this. Mr. Raymer,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Brubaker,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Hensley?
Yes, and thank you to the three gentlemen that agreed to serve.
Yep. I'd echo that too. Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Whelan, you want to?
Okay, the last, we had a committee who interviewed for our CMC, which are construction managers for our upcoming building project. And we had some really good applicants at the conclusion of the interview. Had good discussions, made contacts as far as our reference checks. And on behalf of the committee, I would like to recommend that we select Hagerman as our CMC, and then we would, if you approve that, then we continue with drawing up the contract with them. So that's my recommendation.
I get a motion to approve the recommendation.
So moved.
Mr. Raymer,
I'll second.
Mr. Booker seconded. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Raymer,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Brubaker,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Hensley?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries to approve.
And Dave, before we move on, I just want to recognize Adam Whitmer is here with Hagerman. And so if any of the board members have any questions for him afterwards, you're more than welcome to ask.
Thanks for coming.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
He lives in town, so it's a short drive compared to our architects who are coming from Ohio. So don't feel too bad for him, but I do appreciate Adam being here. So.
Don't feel too bad.
Okay, discussion and information, Mr. Whelan, we had some policies here. Okay, so we had 3 policies, and each one of these, when we're working on this building project, it was the recommendation of the bond council that we look at policies that help improve our bond rating, and so that's why we have Oscar joining us, and also I just want to acknowledge the help that Dennis Otten and also Mark France has given in guidelines here. So there were 3 policies. Much of these are things that we were already doing. However, we didn't have them in writing, and so it was important to go ahead and put those in writing as guidance for this. And so, like as far as our board policy, we do need to have 2 readings. So we're looking at tonight being the first reading, and then at the next meeting we'll look to approve those. So I don't know. Would you like Oscar to talk about each one of the policies? You guys have them in your board packet. And like I said, these are policies things that we need to put in writing to help with our credit rating. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'm comfortable with, I personally read through them. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but Mr. French says they're good, and these gentlemen are comfortable with them. I personally am okay with them. Unless Oscar has something he wishes to share, but
without getting into the details of what each one covers, I would just say that all of these policies are things you're already doing, and when it comes to the investments, that is ultimately mirroring what you're legally allowed to do by the state law. So we're simply putting together what the rules are from the state, and that you will follow those exact rules. So it's not, you're pretty much saying you're not going to go out and buy Apple stock or Bitcoin with public funds. Never do that, but it's now in writing. In regard to the reserve policy, it just sets down a benchmark of 45 days. And when it comes to the debt policy, it just lists all the options the school currently has by state law. So there is nothing here that you're doing that is outside of what the state allows you to do, and it's simply taking those rules and adopting them as your own policy.
And for those of you watching at home, the reason we're doing this is to improve the school's bond rating with Standards and Poor's. These are things we're already doing, but because we put them down in black and white and we say we're going to follow them, that will improve our credit rating going forward as we get into phase 2 and phase 3 in the coming years.
Yeah, it also allowed us to set a target on our cash stance, for Tanya, so there's a lot of good things in there.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, this is the first reading, so we'll go on the 25th. We'll have the second reading. I don't have a Heartland update. I already tooted the horn there for the new drone pilots. Mike, you have a legislative update?
Yeah, real quick, we're in the 122nd and 2022 in the short session. Several, of course, there's some hot topics right now. HB 1182, where they're considering forcing party affiliation for school boards. So we've talked about that before. Probably the hotter one's the HB 1134, based on our curriculum. We'll name the sponsors, but there's some contentious points. I think there's been a lot of educational people giving testimony. In Indianapolis, Terry Stroman and the ISBA are kind of getting in there. But a couple, just so you guys know, like if you haven't looked at this, I think one of the, there's a couple things that concern me where, the schools, there's a couple pieces in here I think that makes sense that, children probably shouldn't be given counseling and stuff without their parents knowing it, without the parent permission, unless they're old enough. There is some mild legal things in for us, definition of sexually explicit, purpose and trade regulations, so it kind of removes the schools and public libraries from any list that's sort of protected from criminal prosecutions from that. But I think the big thing concerning us is going to be the visibility of curriculum to parents, and then the fact that we may have to actually form a curriculum committee with parents. And some of these things I don't see as bad personally, but one thing I hope we can do legislatively is quit putting burden on schools on reporting and different things like that. It's pretty, if we can focus on process, it's pretty hard to legislate behavior and morality if anybody hasn't figured that out. But there's a lot in the schools that we can do, things like Lean Six Sigma, putting true continuous improvement systems in from a cost and a performance standpoint like we do in other industries. So I hope, my wish is that they shake this out and it doesn't bring a large burden, but I think a couple of these things will push us in the right way. A couple of them are probably more politically motivated. But I tell everybody to keep breast on this. I think, there's a lot of information out there right now. So, and then on, I think it's the 25th, we'll have a legislative day down there. Dave, if you don't want to go, I'll probably go down. I'll let you guys know what, but if anybody wants to travel with me, if Dave's not going to go, I'd appreciate some company if one of the other board members want to go. So it's just a little meeting with the legislators in Indianapolis through the ISBA. So that's all I have as an update.
Okay, well, I was going to do that, but actually the date for that is February 15th, and they're asking board presidents and legislative liaisons from every school board to attend, and if we can't make it, they would like us to ask other board representatives to attend, and they're asking that due to cost, that they only send 2 members. Mike wants to go. That weekend is my wife's birthday. I am not going. So, if any of you are interested in going, get with Mike and Missy can get you registered. So.
I mean, she could go if she wanted to have a real good time on her birthday.
Listen to politicians, she already has to listen to me, what she do. There's a constitutional amendment against cruel and unusual punishment. At this time, we'll open it up to public comments, if there is any. If you would, please go to the mic, state your name.
Adam Whitmer with Hagerman. Just on behalf of Hagerman, I wanted to thank everybody, especially the selection committee. We're really excited, and I think we showed that enthusiasm with you guys. So we're really excited to get started and knock these projects out of the park for you.
Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
Superintendent comments.
Okay, once again, yeah, welcome Adam, and I mean, that's, building projects take a little while, so we'll spend plenty of time together, but I do look forward to working. Hagerman has a great reputation, and has shown that they build good relationships with school districts, so thank you. Just so you know, January is School Board Appreciation Month. Superintendents get a day, you guys get a month, so it just tells you how important you are. So, but all kidding aside, I do appreciate you guys serving in this capacity. You know, we talked about the compensation earlier. It's really next to nothing. So, you know, I appreciate all the work that you guys do to represent this community and serve in this capacity. So happy School Board Appreciation Month. Also want to recognize we had a Scholastic art and writing competition recently. There were over 1,600 entries. Jessica Dingus, Ava Egoff, Lily Flora, Nicole Hoppert, and Jay Michael all received honors through that, and their works will be on display at the Fort Wayne Art Museum this coming month. And so I think that's really cool, and you know, thanks to them as well. I do think, even though they'll never hear this, the USDA extending 25 cents per meal towards our food program, that's huge. You know, there was a lot of schools around the nation whose fund continued to drop, and we've been able to maintain, but you know, it's greatly appreciated that they recognize that need moving forward. I do want to kind of talk about those bills that Mr. Hensley had talked about. I will tell you with you know, HB 1134 and then the Senate 167, you know, I do think it's going to do a huge disservice to our teachers, faculty, and staff to expect them to post all of their curriculum on internet or in hard copies far enough in advance for people to basically evaluate everything. And then on top of that, if people opt out of it, then they're having to create alternative assignments. And after all of that, the loosening up or eliminating the criminal protection, it is criminal protection and prosecution that schools currently have. That if someone deems what has been done as performance harmful to minors, then that opens up school districts to criminal prosecution. And so I am a little concerned about these bills. I think it's putting an undue burden on teachers. We already have things in place as far as textbook adoption and curriculum on how we do things. And so I think that, you know, we're already expecting more and more out of our faculty and staff, and I think that it would really cause problems in an environment where we're already concerned with having teachers coming out of college and wanting to pursue this profession to add that additional thing. So I agree with Mike that there's some good things in there, things that we would definitely benefit from, but that piece about putting all curriculum on websites prior to give notice, and also that criminal prosecution piece is not very supportive of teachers and school districts. So just want to put that in your ear. And I do have the school board Superintendents do have legislative day on the 25th of January, and I'll be down there with our regional superintendents talking to our representatives for that. So.
On that topic right there, aren't some of the curriculum and programs that we use licensed from vendors? I mean, let me pick Lean Six Sigma. You know, if we got a license for that and then we put it out on the internet and somebody steals it, who's responsible for that?
And that's, I think there's going to be some major obstacles when it comes to textbooks, as well as things that are that we are licensing. They're copyrighted on how we put those out, because one of the words they use specifically in that bill is worksheets. Those are property of somebody else. We purchase the right to use them for our individual students, but I think it complicates things if we're expected to do that. Also, you know, for not only are we looking at posting all of that on the website, but we do have members of our school population that internet is not available, and so we'd be doing hard copies of all of those things for parents to view as well. And I'm all for transparency, but I think that this is stretching an awful long way and could put us in potential jeopardy in other ways when we're talking about copywritten material.
And on that other bill, I did see an email this afternoon, the one about making the elections non-partisan, or they're non-partisan now, making them partisan. They had like 18 people testify against it, nobody, and I think it stalled in committee. It doesn't look like it's gonna make it out this session, so.
And my concern about that one is more just that, you know, I think that a school board, you know, represents our community, and it gives us that local control, which education is supposed to be. And if it does become overly politicized, I don't want the different political groups at the state level passing down to us what we need to do within the community of North Manchester. I think we know what's best for our students and what we need to pursue that way. And so I do worry about if it becomes this divide that people at the state level are going to try to dictate what we're doing. So that's it. Yeah.
School board comments?
Just to follow that up, these schools need to be treated like sanctuaries. We've got our children in there for one purpose, to educate. And if we do our job right, responsible, you know, as boards and superintendents and administrators, that keeps other people from, you know, trying to dive in there. Again, there's a lot of things, you know, just like we do in all other industries in our state. We're a strong state. We're a super majority Republican state for a long time. So any problem we have, you know, you can't point any fingers at other people, but we continue to try to politicize education. You know, start thinking about doing the right things if you know what they are. You know, let's teach skill sets within the schools on cost saving. Let's, you know, perfect examples, the Shelley and Erica's students. You know, what a great example of entrepreneurship. You know, and I'd say to the two of you, I'd be real happy. I've got a cool little lean Lego simulation that I run with businesses that teach kids basically, or anyone, basically how to do more with, or get more productivity out of there. I wish at one point we'd start to focus on positive things like that. The same things, how we've made the state of Indiana strong. It's been through, yes, through business climate policy, but it's been through a lot of businesses taking on additional skill sets and just flat out getting better with their own people. So I think at some point this has got to turn to where we enable schools, you know, to improve themselves. We bring these skill sets into different arenas, into schools, government, you know, medical. Look at the mess we're in with this cat-burn COVID, you know. So I'm a little passionate about this, if you can't tell, but there's some other things we can do besides create conflict with additional legislation. So that'd be my last word tonight.
I had a quick question, just a follow-up question on the website, just curious. You had mentioned that we don't have graphic artists in-house, but I assume that when they build the site, or when they initially build the site, there will be graphic artists to create everything we need.
We do have some graphic artists on staff, but we don't have a gob of them, and not everybody who puts content up is, I mean, you can't
Of course.
have everybody be a graphic
Of
artist. So,
course.
yes, they do have, that's one of their expertise is graphic artists.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm good.
I'll make one comment, just bring to light the surveys again, Kyle, I appreciate what you're doing with that. And I don't know what type of response you had on this, on the calendar, but I think you're sending a really good message, giving families the opportunity to have input, and then actually making adjustments using that data. So hopefully they'll get used to seeing them and give you some good feedback. So thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Any other comments? Okay, we're gonna have to adjourn this meeting, and then we have to open a Board of Finance meeting, and when that's over, don't take off, because there's a whole stack of documents here. If there's no other comments.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Booker? Mr. Raymer? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. I don't know where Mike went, but.
Yeah.
He checked out.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Oscar.
Oscar.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Dennis.
Okay, at this time, I'll call the Board of Finance meeting to order. We need to elect the Board of Finance officers, which has typically been the officers of the board, and then Tanya will give us a summarization of our investments and a report on financial information. So can I get a motion for President of the Board of Finance?
I'll make a motion for Mr. Turflier.
Second? Mr. Raymer? All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, please note in the minutes, Missy, that Mr. Hensley left and is not attending the Board of Finance meeting. Need a motion to nominate a secretary for the Board of Finance.
Nominate Mr. Hensley.
You nominate Mr. Hensley.
Oh, wait a minute, excuse me, you said secretary? I'm sorry. I nominate Mr. Shaw.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Mr. Booker, second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you for coming, everybody. Tanya?
All right. I did not in this one. I didn't,
Keep going. Pull your microphone down.
oh, sorry.
Sorry.
In this presentation, since we presented the others, I'm just gonna talk about our investments, which we don't have. We closed that out in October.
No Apple
We
stuff?
had the mutual fund and we closed the
No
mutual
Bitcoin?
fund and then distributed those funds back into the fund
This one's been dropping like a rock this week.
that they've been taken from. So, we currently have no investments. Our goal is to get back to where we can invest, but that's, we're gonna build up our cash balances prior to doing that. So, in our rainy day fund, which is really it's in our bank, it's not in a separate fund at the moment, it's a fund, not a separate bank. We have $355,000, so, we're not gonna pay any payroll, if we had to cover expenses before, the distribution of our property taxes would come in. So our goal would be definitely to get this up. I asked those conference in November, one of my colleagues had told the, schools about, he had 12 different schools in that area, and they ranged anywhere from 30% to, of their cash balance to, somebody had $15 million. So I would love to get us to a point where we can have a decent cash balance here in our rainy day fund, use that investments. Obviously, we're not going to get a great return on interest at the moment, part of that education fund was in the Hoosier Fund. Just to show you the total that was in that second to the last column was what was invested in the Hoosier Fund. So we cashed in $2.3 million from the Hoosier Fund in October and distributed that amongst our funds. So if we were, as I said, and we read a policy tonight to have 45 days in our cash balance, that means growing our payroll or our education fund to just over $2 million. If we go, I would like to see us get to the point before we start investing anything, I would like to see us get 5 pays worth, which is 60 days, and that would get us to $3.4 million. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but it's just some goals for you to start thinking about. Operations fund, payroll. My first column, I'm sorry, I skipped over that. My first column out of the education fund, we currently spend about $690,000 in payroll. Out of that, every payroll. So, and then operations fund is 180. So I just extrapolated that out to give us some goals, maybe just a generalization of what we need to shoot for those. This is, it's not me what I want to grow it to, it's what the board wants to. So this is a time for you guys to discuss and think about what you want. It doesn't have to be today, but you can start what you would like to see us get to. Obviously, for our S&P discussion, we did set it up. We would like to set it right now for 45 days. And then, just a quick overview again on our general obligation bonds. I talked about them earlier. I did go back to some other, went back through some records, found some expenses that we had taken out of our operations fund for, one was a bus. We purchased a bus in 2020. We were able to move that to the Geo Bond, so that helped bring our operations fund back up. Some LED lighting improvements that the school had done, meeting boards that we have done, all expenses that were legal to bring back into those bonds and reimburse the school. So that's where I recaptured some of that cash balances to our operations fund for the most part. So that I just wanted to reiterate that. And then we do need to keep in mind that while we have, I'm at a bad angle, I made the slide, but I can't see it from here. The 2019 bond, we want to spend that out by the end of this year. So just to keep in mind as we're looking at, off the cuff. Today I found out we didn't have our hoods serviced over the Christmas holidays. All of the hoods have to be serviced. A couple of years ago, the fire marshal said the hood in this section had to be brought back into service. There's nothing in there to heat, but yet to create heat. But that service, that has to be by the fire marshal, that one's in service. So we have to pay to have that one serviced. So one of my thoughts would be, at some point in time during this project, maybe we pay to have that hood removed.
There you go. There you go.
I don't want to pay for something that there's no reason to have it serviced, So different things like that, just as we're looking at what we have in those two bonds, that kind of project, simple things like that. So. And I think that. And the 2020 should go till 2023. My board goal
Before
was,
we invest, you wanted 45 or 60 days?
Yes.
What was the title on that? I'm making a note here.
cash balance.
Cash balance, thank you.
Right. So, and that would just give us the opportunity to run our payroll without worrying about needing the taxes or that kind of stuff.
And some of that is spelled out in that reserves and liquidity policy that we had the first reading about. It's not something you have to hold to, but it's something that the board says, hey, this is what allows us to sleep at night. And, those 3 payrolls is something that is a very realistic goal for us. Ultimately getting to that 5 payroll would be good, but having those kind of center around, okay, here's what allows us to sleep at night, so here's the money we have available to us to spend.
Can you tell us what it would cost to inspect that hood? What is the fee on that?
I
Any idea?
would have to get back to you, I don't know, Jack told me they're actually coming Friday
Okay.
to inspect all of it, to do the annual, strokes, so, I won't know, and it's kind of late at this point to not do that one, so at this point, we're gonna have to, unless we plan to pick it up, next.
That's all I was just gonna, that's my next question, is can we get an estimate of what it costs?
How much does a sledgehammer
I was
cost?
gonna say, I got a sawzall at home.
I don't know, it's stainless, right, I don't even have foot tools.
I got a sawzall.
You can have like 5 sawzalls here ready to go. Let's do this.
That stainless is worth some money.
Why I'm saying 5 payrolls, because some months we only have 3 payrolls. I just want you guys to understand why I'm saying 5 payrolls, that way we have a full 2 months that we can run.
Are there any other questions, comments?
I was gonna ask a question, and I hope it doesn't show my ignorance, but how do we get there? How do we get to 5 payroll? What, and I guess maybe Kyle kind of touched on it there, but I mean, we have basically nothing now. How do we get there?
We're gonna be, watching our expenses and trying to save wherever we can. Any cost cutting things.
You sell that stainless steel.
Anything that we can, and I want to be, anytime we have, things to get rid of, let's figure out a way to do this that's going to help us. Hey, we don't need, there's, longer ago, people used to stack things like, even a laptop card. They, we don't use this now, but let's put it back. Well, maybe we could sell it now and get market price. Now, it's obsolete. So, things like that, anytime we can cut any expense that I don't want us to be cheap, but I want us to be frugal with the taxpayer dollars. So, as a teachers retire, when you hire a newer teacher in with less experience, you're going to save money there. So there's going to be a few, and maybe, attrition taking away a few positions if we, depending on our student numbers, obviously. But, it'll just be, watching what we spend.
So in the opinion of you two, this is a doable, I mean, I understand we don't know what tomorrow's gonna hold, but this is a doable goal. I mean, those changes is a realistic goal.
It's a realistic, it's not gonna run with it all the day, and it's not gonna happen overnight.
Right.
But I do think, schools build up cash balances. They aren't gonna build like they used to, because they used to even invest, and get a decent rate of return, but right now the rate of return.
And we follow the same funding model as every other school in the state, and there's other schools who've gotten there, so I'm certain that we can. It'll take some time, but part of that has to do with knowing where our money's going. That's really important, and that's why we hired her. And then also, planning ahead on what those expenditures are. A prime example, those 2 Geo Bonds that we have out, I mean, there's some things that we've already spent money out of operations on that could have been spent out of there, which would have enhanced our operations account, increased that debt, that cash balance. And so we just need to know where that money's going, and then is this the best place for it? And making that determination. I mean, priorities are huge. I mean, we need to know what's important to us as a district and make sure that's where we're putting our money instead of things that are just kind of fly by the seat of our pants. So,
thank you.
Well, and another thing, in some of the discussions, we spent some money for some software on routing the buses. They went from 5 silos of money to 3, and a lot of school districts didn't pay attention to what was going on. Now you can do a Geo Bond to buy buses, so why would you not do a Geo Bond, especially when you have debt service money falling off where you're not raising taxes, and leave that money in the operating fund, or basically leave it in the classroom instead of buying buses. So those are just a couple of examples.
4 years or something, instead of, here's $100,000 for this bus now out of our operations, and instead of $45 million.
Yeah, you spend $1 million cost you 13 cents per 100 of evaluation out of your debt service money. You couldn't do that before. So now you're buying 10 buses instead of buying 2. So if you do that twice, you never take another nickel out of your operating fund to buy a bus. So, and those are some of the things that we talked about. So, anything else? Summarize, report on financial information. Area patrons, they all left. Anybody else got anything? Okay, have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Brubaker?
Second.
Mr. Raymer? One quick note here. January 25th, as Kyle said in the email today, will be a regular meeting. We'll need to approve those policies in a second reading, whatever else comes up. And then board training, executive session, February 2nd at 5:30. Looks like everybody can make that date, so we'll go ahead and have Missy advertise it. Mr. Whelan, anything else?
That's it for me.
Motion to adjourn. We got it? We got a second? We're out of here. All in favor?
Aye. Hey, this document doesn't have 7 spots on it. Does it need to?
No.
Okay.